This fall, over 26,000 students at the University of Texas at El Paso. And we're now up at about $158 million worth of research conducted in the university, which is 70% more than it was 6 years ago. So significant expansion in research. In fact, we're now number 5 in Texas for research universities. And that's behind UT Austin, Texas A&M, Houston, and I think this year Dallas. Between us and Dallas, we go back and forth. We're either 4 or 5, so this year we're 5, and we'll catch up next year, I guess. When we talk to outside groups, and there's a lot of companies that come and come to the university learning about the region and talent, this is one of the things that I think we need to talk about a little bit more for El Paso, is that when it comes to a really great place to live, people need to understand that this is an exceptional community. It's a safe community, but it's also a great place to live, and you can afford to live here, which is something that we talk about with companies that come looking for talent at the University of Texas at El Paso. So what do we have of those 26,000 students? Over 5,400 of them are engineering students. 3,500 scientists. Business is close to 4,000 students. The fastest growing program this year at UTEP is actually nursing, with business and engineering being close behind, and about 1,700 in the Teachers College, and of course 70% of the teachers in West Texas were educated at UTEP. So it's a school with deep roots in engineering and science, but has also expanded far beyond just that. Top 5% when it comes to research, community engaged. And recently, the Carnegie Foundation has come out with a new ranking called Opportunity Universities, which is universities that take students from the lowest 10 or 20% socioeconomically and move them up to the highest, with 35% of our students coming from families making less than $20,000 a year. So think about that for a second. About a third of the students at UTEP coming from families making less than $20,000 a year. They get a degree in nursing or teaching, or a nurse marries a teacher, and they have propelled themselves into the upper middle class in one generation. So we are community engaged, an opportunity university, and in the top 5% for research in the country. Those 3 designations, there are probably less than a dozen universities in America that have all 3. And that says something about the unicorn that is UTEP, that has grown here for the last 100 years. Half of our students are still the first in their families to come to college, and 7 in 10, about 3/4 of our students get some kind of a scholarship or grant, not a loan, a scholarship or a grant to be able to come to school. We are now, because of the generosity of the people of Texas and the University of Texas Regents, able to have free tuition and mandatory fees for anyone from Texas who has a family income of less than $100,000, which is remarkable. There are so many states in the country that are not able to even come close to this, and where state aid to education has declined. Texas continues to support education and the opportunity that it brings. And half of our students are eligible. Now remember, this is students from Texas, so they have to be from Texas, and we have a lot of students who come from other states, from New Mexico, and obviously from Mexico. But it's a pretty remarkable accomplishment to be able to package scholarships together at federal, state, and private philanthropy. Even though we serve so many low-income students, this is also remarkable. We go back and forth with Rio Grande Valley as the top school in Texas for graduating students with the least amount of debt. And that says something about the scholarships we have, the students' willingness to work their way through school. But this is wonderful for students to be able to start their career with a very low level of debt. And the level of debt has been declining over the last 3 or 4 years. And that, again, is because of scholarships and the support of the taxpayers and the legislature to continue to support the state aid to education. One of the things I like about this chart on enrollment going up, but also degrees going up, is that the number of degrees awarded has gone up faster than the growth in enrollment. And that reflects a commitment to UTEP to not just admit students, but to help them to succeed. We don't lower the bar, we widen the path. We meet each student where they are and help them to get a very valuable degree if they're willing to work for it. But our degrees awarded is up consistently, and as is our 6-year graduation rate over the last 20 years, about a percentage point a year. And we are now at the Texas average, not by excluding students who are high risk, and we know who those students are, but by meeting more needs, financial, educational, social, cultural, across the board. This last year we started a leadership initiative, and that has to do with, what do students want to do after they graduate, and how do we prepare them more for that? And in some ways, that while the degree they earn is really important, so is the social capital that comes along with all of the co-curricular things that students do in college, the internships they have, the things they develop outside of the classroom. We have launched a leadership initiative that's co-curricular at UTEP, and we've had almost 460 students who have completed the first year of the leadership development program at UTEP, and it will be a 4-year-long program to develop students' leadership skills beyond just what they get in the classroom. Doctoral enrollment has gone up substantially. Back in 1992 was when we started really growing the PhD programs here. Some of you in this room are too young to remember, but until there was a lawsuit that was settled in 1992, UTEP was only allowed to have one PhD degree. The attitude at that time was if you wanted a doctoral degree, a research degree, you had to go to Austin. And there was a lawsuit filed by the LULAC and the people of the Rio Grande Valley saying this is denying access to excellent higher education here in West Texas. And that while they won the lawsuit locally, it was turned over on appeal. So in the end, they lost the lawsuit, but they won the argument. And the regents opened the opportunity for more PhDs to be created here at the University of Texas at El Paso. The entire research enterprise has been built here over the last 30 years. And if we looked at a similar chart for other large universities, particularly, UNM is about the size that we are now, but it would be a flat line because not much has changed over the last 30 years. And this has changed profoundly in El Paso. Coming soon, so in about 2.5 weeks, we should get the keys to Texas Western Hall, the newest classroom building. It's absolutely amazing. They will be moving in over the holidays, and then it will open for classes in January. So that is thanks to appropriations from the legislature as well as public university funds from the University of Texas Regents. But this is a remarkable building, and really will take things to the next level for teaching. The students voted to increase their student union fee, which hadn't been changed since the late 1980s. Thanks to Senator Blanco and our House delegation, we were able to get that authorized and through the legislature and then back to the regents, and the regents approved it. So the students started it, and we are now in the process of setting out the design for rehabbing the student union, which really does need to be done, and that will be one of the next major projects that we have underway. When Texas Western Hall is open, we will tear down the liberal arts building. How many of you here have had a class in the liberal arts building? Yeah. It's the smell I'm going to miss. Nobody who currently works in the liberal arts building is going to regret moving over to Texas Western Hall. It will be lovely. But that building is 12 feet below the floodplain in the Arroyo, because at the time the building was built in the 1960s, there wasn't as much of El Paso upstream, and now there is. It's covered with concrete and asphalt and so forth. So in a big rain event, more water goes into that arroyo. It looks like we may make it to the opening of Texas Western Hall before we have a flood that's big enough to wash away the liberal arts building. So we will take away the liberal arts building and we'll restore the arroyo with gardens that will connect into Centennial Plaza. It's an okay rendering, but on the right-hand side of this is where, so Centennial Plaza is up here. So it's almost like you're standing on the roof of the Union looking down into the arroyo, and the new building on the left side is Texas Western Hall. So we will restore the arroyo. Eventually there will be a bridge across that arroyo from the Union over to the gardens at Texas Western Hall. So this will really restore and fully restore the beauty of the campus and take away the liberal arts building. I think they actually, you can see in the foreground there, they want to use some of the pieces of the liberal arts building. You can see that they're going to use some of them as a wall there, and even in the ground underneath some features there. So they'll be reusing some of that, but I think it'll be a beautiful, beautiful addition to the campus. You know, UTEP, and before that, Texas Western College, has always been kind of the oasis at the pass. I was looking at this last night, and I think this must have been taken in 1984, because you can see they're building the library. And Haskell Monroe was the president of UTEP at the time that the library was built, and you can see that Centennial Plaza isn't there. It's still the parking lot, right? Up by the Student Union and the Psychology Building, and there are still tennis courts where now we have the Health Sciences Building, and the Interdisciplinary Research Building isn't there. So this campus continues to evolve and change and meet the needs of the region that we serve. I think my Subaru is there in the parking lot. I never get new cars. And there are some people in the audience today who 20 years ago started talking about a law school and whether one was needed here. And Representative Ortega was, I think, one of the first people who came to me to talk to me about this shortly after I arrived here. There's a lot that's going on at UTEP, and I summarized a few of them here, but we've got more things going on as well. A bachelor's and master's degree in artificial intelligence. UTEP Health, which is being strengthened and expanded to meet the needs for healthcare in the region. We've doubled the size of physical and occupational therapy. Nursing is very, very strong. We've added a PhD in physics with a focus on quantum. And even though we're in the second year, we have 26 PhD students in quantum physics at UTEP. I told you about the 70% increase in research in the last 6 years. And we just announced earlier this week the fourth consecutive year of over $40 million in fundraising at UTEP, which is a remarkable increase. For mining engineering, we will be starting with the first class that will enter in the fall of 2027 in the reestablishment of mining engineering at UTEP, which will be the only university in Texas that teaches mining engineering. It will be the largest mining engineering program in the United States of America, and it will be the best mining program in the United States of America. And again, thank you. And thank you to both the University of Texas Regents, to private sector and industrial sponsors, and also again to our legislative delegation for supporting the reestablishment of mining engineering. I have to say that when I went to the faculty and said, do you think it would be a problem if we look at restarting mining engineering, and not the engineering faculty, but the other faculty, I wanted to see if it would create some controversy or something, and they said, don't we already teach that? Aren't we like the miners? I said, sorry I asked, I'll just keep working here. A lot going on. We know that next fall we will have completely funded 220 exceptional future leaders in special scholarship programs, the Terry Scholars, the Lopez Scholars, the Presidential Leadership Scholars, the Texas Leadership Scholars. 220 students will be involved in special cohort programs for exceptional scholars who are full-ride students at the University of Texas at El Paso. So there is a lot going on. But so is the issue of a law school. You know, we did a feasibility study, and I announced that study here with the bar when we were here before. and we have continued to work on that. The feasibility study found that we turned into the legislature in the last session found a very strong demand for law school from potential students, but also in the job market here in El Paso and in Texas as a whole to support the graduates of any law school. It also worked out the funding model, and that it would take about $20 million over 10 years in operating funds to get this started up, plus the cost of a building to get it underway. That law school initiative and the founding at UTEP will also require strong support from this community. It's the way we've always had to do things here, is to build support in community and then go to our partners, particularly in Austin, for additional help. Some of this data I've shared with you before, but there is a projected increase in employment in the legal professions through 2034. And that comes out of our study that we did and we turned into the legislature. So the demand is clearly here. We are the third largest metropolitan statistical area in the United States that doesn't have a law school. Rochester, New York doesn't have one. The Texas Rio Grande Valley doesn't have one, but they have law schools that are much closer to them than we have. In the case of El Paso, Texas, the closest law school is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, 3.5 hours up the road. We also took a look at what would a law school look like here. I mean, what would be our sweet spot? The first one is how large would it be? We would scale it up, and one of the mistakes that other schools have made is that you can't actually get accredited until you have that first class graduate, which means you have to expect that those first classes are going to be smaller than when you get to steady state. That's okay as long as we plan for that. But at steady state, we would expect to admit 100 students annually and then graduate close to 100 after a 3-year period. We need to manage that enrollment because what we don't want to do is to have more lawyers graduate than there are jobs reasonably available. So this is not a large law school. It is a law school of roughly 300 students at the JD level. We also want to make sure that we meet local and regional needs. And the study showed that those needs are across the board. In tax and civil law, criminal law, torts, administrative law, there's a wide range of needs. But there are a couple of things where we think we can meet a particular need. There is a significant shortage of bilingual lawyers in the state of Texas, all over the state of Texas. And that's something, some of you may have seen in the newspaper recently. The most bilingual city in America is El Paso, Texas. 70% of our students are fluently bilingual. So there is an opportunity there, again, to meet a need. The other one is public and private international law. The largest trade partner for the United States is Mexico, and 20% of that trade comes through this city. Whether you're dealing with contracts on both sides of the border, or settling estates, or taxation, or all customs, all kinds of other things, there is a need for people who can do business and law on both sides of the U.S. and Mexico border. It's clear to us that we need to prioritize affordability. That's a UTEP thing. We want to make sure that we are both competitive with respect to the cost of going to law school, but also that we don't burden students with an excessive amount of debt. We did some case studies of new law schools. We talked to Dallas, to the University of North Texas. We also looked at other law schools that are the only law school in their region. For example, South Dakota and Wyoming, New Mexico, where they serve a broader region and how they go about doing that. There's enough demand here, including demand from students for whom going away to law school is not an option because of family demands and circumstances where they can't go to Texas Tech, they can't go to Austin, they can't go to St. Mary's, they can't go to UNM because they have obligations. But they would go to law school if that were an option for them, and they'd make great attorneys. And we also found there's actually quite strong demand for enrollment for a UTEP law school. We took a look and we did some surveying, but we also talked to law firms around El Paso. And in fact, while other regions in Texas may have sufficient numbers of lawyers, there's actually a shortage of attorneys across the board in all kinds of legal specialties here in El Paso. So the ratio of attorneys to population here is about 1 to 671. If El Paso was just adjusted to the Texas average ratio, that would be equivalent to about 1 to 310. So we do have a shortage of legal professionals in the region. So the next steps after we turned in the report to the legislature, when the legislature met this last January, February, was we needed to determine the local financial support. We need to get support here. And then we expect to update the UT system and to ask for their support in the summer of this coming year, so 8 or 9 months from now. If there is substantial local support, we expect to make a formal request to the Texas legislature in their session in 2027. So that's kind of where we are with respect to next steps. But I kind of have an important announcement to make. The Paul L. Foster Family Foundation has established a $5 million dollar-for-dollar matching grant to support the establishment of a law school at the University of Texas at El Paso. Now, this generous gift from Paul and his family creates an opportunity for the legal community to join him and to make a law school possible here in El Paso. This is a matching grant to help with those expenses in that first 10 years so that we can have a law school here, because we can't do it alone. The University of Texas at El Paso can't take money from other programs to cover the cost of setting up a law school here. We have to go to others, including the firms and the people in this room, to say, if you help us, we can do this. And Paul Foster and his family has stepped up. For every dollar, particularly that the legal community comes up with, it will be matched 1 for 1 by Paul Foster and his family, up to $5 million. That will get us halfway there. And halfway means we'd be at the crest of the hill and on our way to having a law school at the University of Texas at El Paso. Now, if you're interested in these kinds of things, or you want to talk, Gary Edens is here, as is Andrea Cortinas. Andrea, who is our Executive Vice President and Chief of Staff, was a graduate of the Law School Preparatory Institute longer ago than she wants to admit, and then went to Berkeley on a scholarship, came back to El Paso, practiced law, became the General Counsel at the university, and is now the Chief of Staff. She has been involved in stewarding this project through from the very beginning with the legislature and the feasibility study. Gary has been working, doing development, and has done an exceptional job in both on this and other things, and working with the Foster Family Foundation. Someday there's going to be a law school in El Paso, and when there is, it should be at UTEP. And I got to tell you, the feasibility study came out better than I expected, and I think now's the time. But I'd ask for your help. God bless you all. And that, other than that, not much is going on at UTEP. I think I've explained that to you about the terms of the match. These are unrestricted funds, although we are going to establish a founding partner society at UTEP for those who give transformative gifts above $2.5 million, and they will be recognized at the law school and a ways in the building. And pledges can be made over a 5-year period, so it's not as though you have to write the $2.5 million check today, but we would accept it if you did. And of course, for those of you who are thinking about this for your firm, we do have a process whereby I go to the regents to ask permission to do namings with the approval of the Board of Regents at an eventual law school built here. Thank you all for your work and your inspiration. Some of you have been working on this for over 20 years. Others of us are newer to the game, but I think together we're likely to make something happen. God bless you all.
Well, thank you so much. It's wonderful news and a great update. Appreciate it very much. We just had a small gift for you, and as a token of the bar's appreciation for this presentation.
Is there a $2.5 million check?
It's possible.
I just asked the judge that.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Can we do the raffle? The door prizes. All right. What's the? Okay, those are the 2 prizes.